democratize corruption at the price. They democratize corruption by spreading it.
What do you mean by supporters not really getting on board to support the opposition? Because you're saying...
I'll give you a practical example.
Yes.
In 2012 and 2011, I worked with Conrad Nkutu to try to arrange a dialogue between President Museveni and Dr. Chiza, or for that matter, between the government and the opposition, where Museveni and Besigye were the key players. And Besigye, one time at his house, told me personally, he said, if I drove from here, I went to State House and met Museveni, I'll come back and find my position has been taken by somebody else. They will say Museveni has been compromised.
Does that mean that they don't trust themselves as opposition?
You have raised a very interesting thing. I don't think he felt he trusted himself enough and his integrity and, by the way, the attitude of his supporters. But even Bobby Wine, if Bobby Wine wanted to reach out to Museveni, Museveni reached out to Bobby Wine and say, how can we work together to build Uganda? Bobby Wine would fear that any cooperation with Museveni will be seen by his base, which is radical and radicalized and extremist. They will see him as having been compromised by Museveni, and therefore they may abandon him and go to support Lukwago. And when Lukwago was fighting Gen from Sisi in Kampala, I went to his home to see him. He told me the same thing. He said, Mwenda, the day I move from here and I'm seen to tolerate Museveni or talk to him or cooperate with him or work with him, it will be the end of my politics. So the opposition in Uganda is controlled by its extremist wing. There is a radical extremist wing of the opposition who are so passionate in their hostility to Museveni that they see any compromise with, if you compromise with Museveni, it means you have been compromised by him. If you work with him, for them they say you have worked with him, you are working for him. You see, you can compromise with Museveni, Charles, without being compromised by him. You can work with him for the good of Uganda without working for him. You can acknowledge his achievements without endorsing his failures, you see? And I don't think people in the opposition, the passionate supporters of the opposition, can see things in the way I'm presenting them. That if Bobby Wine says, okay, me and you, Museveni, disagree on ABCDFG, is something on which we share a common agreement. How do we work together to ensure that we are able to pour money into infrastructure in Kampala, build flyovers, enlarge roads, remove potholes to allow our people to work? Because you should remember, Kampala is the base of the opposition. Museveni got 126,000 votes in the last election. Bob Wine got 3 times more votes than that. He got 384, you see. So essentially, any investment in Kampala is an investment into the support infrastructure. If you drive around Uganda, I was coming here yesterday, when I reached Tirinyi, instead of driving to Mbale, which I always used to do, and then drive here, I found they have built a new tarmac road from Tirinyi to Kumi. Then I come to Soroti. It reduces the distance by about 40 minutes. So it is easier now to come to Soroti. So if you drive up country in Uganda, you can drive from Soroti to Moroto, from Moroto to Nakapiripiriti, and on a clean tarmac road. From Soroti to Lira to Gulu to through Nwoya to Pakwachi, to Nebi to Arua, on clean tarmac. Gulu to Kitugum to Nimele. I mean, you can drive everywhere on clean tarmac roads today. But when you go to Kampala, we used to have many potholes in our roads. Right now, we have few patches of road in the potholes in Kampala. So I get the sense that it is so difficult to get. Ugandan politicians are like American politicians. When Obama was coming to office, he said, America's infrastructure is rotten, we need to invest in it. The Republicans opposed that plan. When Trump was coming to power, he came on saying, our infrastructure is like that of a third world country. We need to invest in infrastructure. The Democrats opposed Trump. Now, Biden has come in, he's saying we need to invest $2 trillion into the infrastructure of America because it's collapsing. It was built in the 1930s up to 50s. It has not been improved. And now the Republicans are opposing it. So every single thing that the Democrats propose, even if it was a Republican plan, the Republicans will oppose it and vice versa.
But then
that's where Uganda is.
There are also some indicators that government or the NRM government is trying to incorporate some of the opposition ideologies in its implementation. For example, the issue of free education. Remember, when Besigye was campaigning, he talked about free education, and people saw it with the NRM after winning the elections. And then also there are other things that the opposition political parties and the key players have always been raising, and the government is trying to go into that. Does that mean that opposition has also got better ideologies and things that can run this country? And why not given a chance?
Well, I agree with you that the NRM government, and Museveni specifically, are more inclined to listen to the opposition without recognizing that this was an idea of the opposition and implement it. Perhaps out of political expediency. out of political expediency. But I think that the opposition are so hostile in the opposition to Museveni that they don't see any value in him and his government and any value in any form of cooperation. In fact, opposition politicians who have tried to cooperate with the government in order to achieve particular objectives, you can talk of Abdul Katuntu and so many others.
Yes.
They have been labeled moles and therefore they have been alienated from their political parties, and some of them have quit their parties to become independents. Because I think that while I recognize the fact that the government of Uganda right now, one, is tired, has suffered ideological atrophy, I think it has lost a lot of its moral purpose to govern, and I also think it has become too corrupted. It is too much driven by cash and carry, rather than by some grand moral purpose or grand vision of change for the country. While I recognize those weaknesses, I am even more put off by the opposition in Uganda because I feel, for one, they lack an alternative policy agenda. They have only one plan, Museveni agende. You know what that means?
He should leave power.
Museveni should go. And they don't have anything that beyond the fact that Museveni, beyond the slogan that Museveni should go. If you ask them what is their energy policy, what is their policy towards banking and telecommunications in Uganda? What is their policy towards local content? You know, this country right now, you look at its banks, they're all, 90% of the banks are owned by foreigners. Look at its telecommunications sector. 100% is owned by the foreigners, or 99% for that matter. Look at its manufacturing. Look at its construction. This country in the next 10 years, 7 years is going to invest $40 billion in infrastructure, building dams, oil production facilities, the pipeline, and whatever it is. How much local contractors are participating? Almost zero. It simply means that this country is borrowing money to build infrastructure, and all this money is being shipped abroad. That this country makes money, all the profits made every year shipped abroad to pay dividends to shareholders in South Africa, in Dubai, in London, elsewhere. You see, what is the opposition's response to the foreign dominance of our economy?
Maybe because they have not been given a chance. Because if
government, they don't need to be if power,
government,
we need to hear them on television, at rallies and newspapers articulating these issues. I personally think, for example, Uganda has been exporting raw cotton and raw coffee for the last 100 years. Let me tell you my grandson, Charles.
Okay.
Development takes place in the context of international trade. There is no country that is not involved in international trade that has ever developed. So you need to produce goods, sell them abroad, and foreign exchange, and develop your economy, right? Now, international trade is a value chain. In that value chain, you'll have some countries willing to produce cotton. Others will get that cotton and turn it into cloth. Others will get that cloth and market high fashion, right? When I talk of high fashion, you will talk of Hugo Boss, Louis Vuitton, Dolce & Gabbana, Burberry. These are high brands where you buy a shirt for $500. If you look at the owner of this radio station, my grandson, Mike Mukula, if you look at the suits he wears, his suit is about $1,500, but a normal suit maybe $100, a normal suit or $200, but his will be, because it is a Dolce & Gabbana suit, Canali, Palzelleri, Hugo Boss, whatever it is, they are expensive brands. So how much you earn from international trade depends on your position, whether you are selling raw cotton, ordinary clothes, or marketing high fashion. Some countries produce iron ore, others make steel, others sell automobiles, they sell cars. You see, how much you earn depends on on what you produce and sell. Now, let me give you a very good example. Uganda sells raw cotton. It fetches only 2% of the international market price. If you look at a country like Bangladesh, it sells cloth. It earns about 20% of the international market price, or 15%. If you look at a country like Italy and France, they deal in high fashion, designer clothing, right? They earn 65%. So that is why Uganda is a very poor, a highly indebted poor country. Bangladesh may be a middle-income country, and France an advanced country, because it gets 65 to 70% of the value of cloth. We get 2%. So the process of development is the process of upgrading from low value to high value products. Uganda should be making its own cloth. Uganda should be converting its raw coffee into instant coffee, what we drink called Nescafe, right? There's a company called, what is the company called? I think, I forget its name, which produces Nescafe. So anyway, this is the bottom line, is that for 100 100 years, we have not put factories to add value to our products. By not adding value to products, we remain in perpetual poverty. A man who sells beans cannot earn the same money as the guy who sells cars. Would you agree?
So now what do you
I'm asking you, do you think a man who
because
cultivates
you know
beans
some of the things, because we are not given priorities, because that is what people also think. The
So I
government
want
is
to
not
ask you,
giving
Charles, when you host
the government
opposition politicians-
is not giving priorities, and the alternatives that the opposition political parties may be able to
to do it.
to
So
do,
I want to
yes.
ask you, Charles, you have hosted Emuria on this show. Has he told you these things I'm talking about? Has he told you that Uganda needs to build factories to add value to its product?
They talk about it.
He has told you about it?
They talk about it. That is why you see even
Has he told you that Uganda should be manufacturing cars?
you know, some of those things.
So is he supporting
have
Kira Motors?
have been talked about, and actually when you come to the priorities, when government is budgeting and putting money into allocations and so on, we don't see some of the realities.
But what I'm saying is that I think that the government of Uganda anyway is doing very little or nothing about it. But I don't hear the opposition talking about it. Whenever I hear them saying Museveni has beaten us, oh, Museveni is corrupt. They speak about all these little small things anyway that are not fundamental. They may be morally and emotionally appealing, but they're not fundamental to the development of countries, and they ignore the most fundamental things about the development of countries. One, if you want your country to develop, I promise you, my son, the biggest source of development is your participation in international trade. And when you participate in international trade, the most important question is, what are your terms of trade? Terms of trade refer to the price index of your exports against the price index of your imports. How much value do you gain from what you sell, and how much value do you lose or do you spend from what you buy? You see? So if you are selling cheap products and buying expensive ones, in other words, you sell coffee, or for that matter, you sell ordinary cotton and import cloth, you get it? You can be sure that you'll remain in perpetual poverty. So for me, I want to hear Amuriat, I want to hear Bobby Wine, I want to hear Mugisha Muntu, not discussing these little petty issues. Oh, corruption, oh, democracy, oh, I honestly consider them irrelevant.
Corruption?
I consider it a very small matter to Uganda's problem.
Where money has gone to few individuals?
It may be morally, you see, when you talk about it is morally, it morally stimulates emotions. How can something belongs to so many be taken by so few? You get it? My grandson go to China. The most corrupt country I know about is in China. But if you flew to China, you'd be amazed at the rate of change. You can go there this year, next year you'll find 100 skyscrapers, and all this city is a forest of skyscrapers, of tall buildings. I don't know that. How come corruption doesn't stop China from developing? It stops Uganda. You should ask yourself about that. Why? Because China every day, aren't you using China products? I am sure even this microphone is from China. Because they are focused on the right things. They are making computers, they are making smartphones, they are making robots, they are making every single thing that you think. You see? They are building highways across. And by the way, a lot of the corruption you see in Uganda is also exported by the Chinese here. We import it from China. The Chinese construction companies which are building these roads in Soroti here, they must have bribed every Ugandan to do these roads. You see? So how come it doesn't stop them? We need to focus on the things that matter to us. What are we selling? Are we selling value-added products, or are we selling raw cotton?
But where are they? Because if you talk about value addition, value, you add value to what? Because if you look at here in Teso, we even told it to grow trees and oranges. You know, but the citrus is not what we are up to. The factory is there, but there's nothing. People were not given. People grew the citrus, and others were saying, no, the variety is not doing well. This one is not good for the factory, the other thing. And also when you look at the money allocation, when the government is putting money, you find that agriculture, which is supposed to take the highest share, such that we can talk about the things Andrew you're talking about, is not realized. Maybe for now, let me first hold you there. Then I bring Moses Ochole. Moses Ochole was once a member of the National Consultative Forum, and I need his opinion. Especially, Moses, you pick up from what Andrew said, how political parties are failing to work together. And we want also to look at the dominance of NRM as a political party. Others, Andrew has talked about being malls. How can a political party infiltrate on other political parties?
You see, Charles and the listeners, the biggest problem is to overcome the establishment. How political parties are formed, actually, it's an individual idea. You can sit somewhere with a disagreement with Andrew Mwenda, walk away, form a political party.
Okay.
To dislodge you, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. I mean, the other thing, supporters don't own political parties because they don't contribute financially.
To the political party?
Yes, I would say to drive the idea of the political party. They either receive or distribute. So it's very difficult for you to sell idea outside what the founder is talking about. Very, very difficult. I mean, the other thing, I would say disciplinary organs of political parties are very weak. You can be disciplined out of a disagreement with a chairman. I can quote the ANC. Yes, they may be having issues with Zuma, Ramaphosa, and who. But in Uganda, what President Museveni says cannot be challenged, even by Central Executive Committee, SEC, and other organs. So for us to really overcome hate and division, we must be very tolerant. Political parties are a platform for dialogue. I mean, unfortunately, in Uganda, it's opposite. We no longer agree. You can leave a political party and join another political party. It's allowed. In other words, you'd be viewed as someone being bribed, as someone who wants to be recognized. So for me, the biggest problem of even political parties, unable to reach out to the grassroots, unable to allow the membership feel the taste of the political party. An individual and his allies are actually I would say the body of the party and the law of the party. You realize that managing discipline within the top officials is also a huge challenge. Tolerance within the top officials and sharing the vision with the common man. Actually, with me, the common man is just used for 5 years. After election, nobody is bothered about a political party. So Ugandans seem not to have understood political parties. They understand an individual. In FDC, you cannot talk about FDC without PSG. In the NRM, you can't exclude Museveni. In UPC, Obote's family still has a hand. In DP, they talk about Buganda, they talk about religion. So Charles, as a country, in my view, I have experience. I paid a huge price from the NCF, trying to challenge the establishment of the person who had nominated me to represent. So we still have a very, very big problem. I mean, the other thing is to acknowledge credibility from the opponent. Andrew Mwenda talked about accepting that you have, performed from here, from this other side, you have not performed. Why? People, believe in strategy. There are those who think that, their strategy is to oppose, no matter of the success you have. Seeing you crossing the other side is viewed as a betrayal. In my own understanding, is seen as a betrayal. And also, we capitalize on a wave. The political parties do not, build an institution that can operate without a political wave. If it's land, you must put all your energy and talk about land. Talk about land. If it's roads, yes, they will build the roads. But what are you benefiting outside the discussion of roads? It talked about establishment of industries. Well, Charles and the listeners, in 1960s, Obote built the meat packers here home. I think the NRM has been in power for more than 30 years. The recent industry we saw in the Teso sub-region was built in 2013-14. I would say the Teju factory. The
fruit factory.
We talked about value addition. We have a lot of fruits outside oranges. We have local mangoes, organic juice. Government has never picked interest to consider that, can we have a factory here? We still have cows in the region. Not even a single day government has thought of renovating
the meat packers.
Let me tell you. And those are some of the things government should pick up and consider. You see, manipulation is also, the art of the establishment. Those who have money are fighting for a portion of the minister, fight for the portion of the RDC, even ambassador, and tell the president in his own wisdom. And that is the biggest problem of real longevity. It does not matter whether in power whether a CEO or a football manager, you run out of ideas. And it is very easy to manipulate a CEO who has overstayed in the company because he does not want anybody to come closer to that. So for me, I think the high demand of products nowadays are the organic products. And we do not have, you talked about poverty. People may not gain much if you don't support, their ideas. Once you have a factory in the region or industries, you are able to employ skilled people, unskilled, semi-skilled. Those who cannot operate a machine can help load something. By you doing that, they are able to open a small saloon and employ somebody. So the region, for me, I want to speak as a person from home. We are very far, very, very far compared to other regions. I don't want to say Ankole, but even compared to Lango, because the political wing has also decided to use a siege approach. They don't eat ministerial positions. We have held ministries before. Guangor was here, Rico was here, the former Attorney General. I think government commitment to drive, poverty out of the region should be one of the key topics in the region. And even those who are close to Museveni, his ADCs, his advisors, and those in the NRM. Because you're not going to capitalize on popularity in the voting rate, which means people are cornered that year of election. So for me, Charles, in my opinion, and Andrew Mwenda, we are still behind. We have the raw materials here. We have water, water bodies. You don't find a single industry producing a bottle of water. We do not have a single factory making tiles, and yet our rocks are not very, very hard. They can be crushed, and people can get something. I would say within the region. So the biggest challenge of poverty, lack of government will to establish small industries that can employ youth who are unemployed, who are unskilled, and even those who are skilled.
Well, now, when Andrew Mwenda talked about Bobby Wines and so on during the recent elections and the way youth play politics in this country, you are youth and you are in National Consultative Forum. What is your opinion on how the youth value the politics of this country in a way that right now the youth are not talking about being leaders of tomorrow? They are talking about leaders of today.
You see, Charles and the listeners, the situation can force you out of the box. You need to understand the population index of this country. Over 80% are the young people. You need also to understand that youth are unemployed. Very easy ideologically to manipulate, including those, global, terrorists, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, and others, including ISIL. They target the young people. The young people are strong, energetic, they can, tolerate, and they also, cheap labor. What the young people need to understand is to organize themselves and move away from being used as supporters. Assess the situation very well, assess the political party very well, assess the individual, which is almost impossible because the actors change the message per region. They change the message per region. They also change the message per the situation. There's no difference between the NRM youth, the FDC youth, independent youth, and other ordinary youth. Because the poverty rate is high. And also the youth need to show themselves within a political party. Can they lead? Can they use the numbers? So the youth, I don't buy the idea of using the youth only for demonstration. The young people must also demonstrate. I believe that when Andrew Mwenda started this activism, I would say was a young man. He used his energy, he used his age to appeal to the global audience. So the young people should also have a strategy to review who is for us, what are we fighting for. Individuals in this country, regardless of the political party, use the young people, one for accountability, to drive the message, to drive hate, to drive the populist approach. It is more easier for you to tell the young people, I will give you 5,000. The man with a family will ask 100 questions. If I die in the riot, who will look after my children? I think for me, Charles, it goes back to government. Come up with a strategy. You see, giving out money, the Youth Livelihood Fund, the Capital Venture Fund, it has never yielded results. I was Secretary of Publicity in the city under NYC. It has never yielded results. And there's no single country in the world which gives out money to young people. You just give money. You must present the idea. Build the idea, either professional or unprofessional. How can government support the idea of the young people to reduce the participation of the political demand? However, with the status quo of longevity, the young people will always follow a person who will emerge with the message of hope. Another thing, I would say, political parties don't groom young people. Appointing you as a minister, it is just to reward you. It's different from offering you a platform that will bring many young people on board. And young people have been reduced as a shield to protect the party president, guard him, attack courts of law, protest against an individual, against his interest. It is easier anyone in government to steal government funds genuinely without having any rift with the state. What will happen? Come back to your village, organize young people, protest. You will be released. So as young people, this country belongs to us, including you are not an old man. We need to understand which direction are we taking as young people. Which direction are we taking? Who is driving us? Manipulation is one of the key things. And young people, unfortunately, rarely come together and support one of their own.
Right. Andrew Mwenda also talked about corruption. He even said China is the most corrupt country, but the economy in China is projecting and it's moving on forward. And when you look at Uganda here, a lot of money has been taken by few individuals, but we are still crippling. Does that mean that sometime back the president said that he has no problem with somebody who embezzles money and puts back to the country, that it develops the country economically? How does that work?
I think, Charles and the listeners, the president as an individual has been swallowed by political actors within his range, outside his range, foreign companies. What happens with my experience as a local councillor, there's quite a huge collaboration between the cows, the town clerks, and other stakeholders to defraud government through a high-profile classified transfer of government money. The funds which is returned to the treasury is never rebudgeted. It's never rebudgeted. The releases of government are managed by a single individual. That is the town clerk, and the city, and the municipality, and the district, the cow. Those who are in charge of work, especially the departments like the DHO, the CFO, the engineer. Remember, at the district level, a city level, a municipal level, the person with the largest budget, it's actually the Department of Works. Once money is released quarterly, the town clerk, the cow, another district, and LOC 5, those who are top executive at the district, the corner heads of department, to release money. How will a president know? Show the work at the district, 100% is entirely in the hands of the cow, the LOC 5, the district engineer. Those are our children. Society is also unfortunate. They don't ask a graduate how he was able to buy a Mercedes-Benz of 200 million. They will glorify and say, this our son is successful. So government, in my own view, tracking corruption from the central government up to the local government. And remember, most of these companies, are owned by individuals, either the PS, the general, someone within the line of sense. So to me, fighting corruption has defeated President Museveni, has defeated, because it's a complete system, a complete network, a well-organized crime, right from the district council to the ministry. And some of these town clerks, you attempt to transfer them. I mean, they boast, I'm an NRM cadre. So to mix a political party with the affairs of the state, I think there's no separation. They also contribute money to government to support the political party during the campaign. And most of them say, I'm in contact with the PS, I'm in contact with the minister. So fighting corruption in Uganda, we need to review our policies, our laws, our mechanisms of recovery of assets, which is also impossible. It talked about individuals, paying, I would say paying parliament. Even as here, town clerks can pay councillors to go against a well-organized case. So fighting corruption is no longer news to us. It's actually a way of rich people amassing wealth. And government will always say, we are going to appoint IGG, we are going to appoint in Akalema. You have seen behind this building, what happened? We lost a lot of money here. So to me, government needs to review its position. How are they going to help people recover money?
Okay.
Young people have no jobs. We don't have drugs in the hospital. We have infrastructure as a building. Having a road without individuals using the road to transport their goods, it's as good as not having a good road.
Right, thank you. And I know before we go for this short commercial break, Andrew Mwenda, you've acknowledged here that there is longevity in power here in Uganda. Government is also running out of ideas. What do you think should be the therapy to that effect? To the extent even you yourself, I understand, I read it somewhere in 2019, you launched what they call Uganda National People's Democratic Revolutionary Front. What was the approach?
First of all, I don't even know where they have solutions for Uganda. I don't like to have solutions, but I just want to discuss what is likely to happen. I have already told that Uganda is heavily polarized. One, you have a government that has been in power for a very long time.
And that's what we're talking about, the therapy here.
In rare cases, do you have such a long-serving government and still retains energy? Everybody grows old. And I think Museveni cannot, for example, as an individual, he cannot defy the laws of biology. That is one. And two, the laws of sociology. The longer you stay at something, the more you become complacent in it. You cannot expect a government, NRM, and Museveni, who have been in power for 35 years, to initiate some big reform. There are certain ways they have been used to, which have worked for them. They will sustain. You're likely to see more continuity and very little change. If government changed, of course, you would expect people to come with new zest and energy. The problem, of course, I have is that while you have this entrenched problem of a government that is suffering from inertia, a government that is suffering from fatigue and exhaustion, I don't know, there is a problem with Uganda as a society because we have failed to produce a political alternative that offers better hope. And that is where the Uganda challenge is. If you ask me, my biggest worry when I lie in my bed is to say, okay, old man, you are frustrated with this current government. It is slow, it is corrupt, it has become incompetent, it is complacent. It cannot respond to many things, it's just tired. And then what else? I look around and I see a disaster in front of me. So every day I am worried. And I say, then what is the future of Uganda? I don't know. Because that will be produced politically. How the different, maybe someone is going to emerge who will inspire Ugandans and will be committed to the transformation of Uganda and will offer an alternative that can be attractive. He will be emotional appealing. You know, there are two things to read about a candidate. One, the right policy proposals, but two, he must have emotional connection with the public. You saw Obama. Obama enjoyed two things. He was a big thinker, but also he could appeal to people. You can have the best ideas and people don't feel connected to you. So
don't you think that the time is now, as many think?
That the time is now?
Yeah, the time is now.
But we are waiting for that person. You see, in any situation, you may have the piling up of what I would call social dynamite. You know dynamite? An explosion. People are getting... In Uganda, young people are really angry. There is a lot of anger in this country. People are frustrated and all this. So that is what we would call political dynamite. It is a raw material that can be used for political mobilization. But there has been a supply of very poor leadership to catalyze that whatever. The leadership that you have in the opposition is so poor, it is incapable of organizing and catalyzing that opposition into purposeful political behavior, into a purposeful aim, a grand aim for Uganda. I think that they are just as interested as in getting into power and doing exactly what Museveni does. The quarrel with Museveni is that he's the one who is eating and they are not. You see? And that is not the politics I'm looking to. I'm looking for a person who will mobilize different segments of the Ugandan society around a grand vision of this country. What does this country need to be? I have told you. Movement from production and the sale of raw materials to production to adding value in our products and selling them abroad. That is the first and most important thing we need to think about. So that if you're going to sustain Uganda, by the way, I have told you, Uganda has enjoyed one of the best rates of economic growth in the history of the world ever recorded. But why have we benefited less from it? It's because our economy is controlled by foreigners. Okay, assuming you own a company, every year you make profits, you take the profits out of the company. How will your company grow?
Okay, let's first go for this short commercial break. I will be right back with the team here. And to you who has joined us right now, we have just some couple of minutes to the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. Here today we have Andrew Mwenda. He calls himself an old man from Kanyandai.
I'm the old man of the clan. I was born 3rd October 1912. And now on 3rd October, I'm turning 109.
With big dreams.
The oldest Ugandan.
With big dreams. Yes. We shall talk about it because even history, if someone preview you and analyze the way you talk, it seems like you go well with the opposition ideology that alternatives should be made. And recently you also joined NUP. You were struggling for
Charles, you take all my jokes.
No, so how can you take a joke to a political party who is after power?
I was mocking NUP because NUP are confused.
Okay, we shall come back to that.
This is Voice of Teso, 88.4, the People's Choice.
Ijo, ikote gwere tiboro, meribo riboro, Goldman Supermarket, Nyesabongrekon, Ejakes Nesoroti, Adunkira Teso Coach, Orula Polon, Abeyari Moroto, Egwelarkesi Boro, Kwabena, a juice, a splash, Ejasakile, ice cream, Ejakes Kedi Soda, Kedi Wines, Ejabokes Kedi Nyamata Luidue, Anwa Tota Nwitana Kete, Baby Soya, Soya Millet, Soya Rice, Energy Booster,
Ejatana Kwesi Kede Baking Products, Safi Baking Flour, Supreme Baking Flour, Drum Baking Flour, Akalayan, Dicholongoi, Emesan, Ikopoi, Carpet, Kaicheda Ngunbubo, Omo, Magic, Ariel, Nomi, Osode Sanitizer, Etwasamado Yapesi, or Motoka, Araibonato Recon. Ejasabo Kweske Riboro, Etwasamo Togo, Kwapenata Sukai, Ijam,
Anajanipo, Inome Simo, Enot Kanyari Kanyari Yare, Ikanyoni Kanyape, Ikanyari Kany, Ikanyari Wongon. Are not kanyare noti dopet, and not kanyauni yare, ikanyauni ranauni, are not kanyari kanyare kanyangon, iare yare, ikanye not, yare kanyape.
Do you want a self-inking or wooden stamp for your organization, business, company, enterprise, agency, association, clan, or group? Look no further. Get your stamp in 30 minutes. Dynamic Graphics Sorority has all your stamp needs covered. Dynamic Graphics Sorority, the best official stamp makers in Teso. We are located at Jovi House behind DFCU Bank along Gueri Road at the heart of Sorority City. Contact us on 0787 415292 or 0754 072353.
Akorio kokosi, lua chila koteso, ido kungisa bungutu, ido kwana, ijakede ichokolwe soya, olukumini ya rejbon, ikinyomole mudunga, kede bolia, olukumina kaisa unanu ya rejbon, eja icheda, anadumuna idules, odorok agency kosi, aboiswani moriartos, soroti, odoroke tonu Simon, kasi kedo kwenya Inyam Trading Center, Eulu John Bosco, Tubur Trading Center, Epasu Joseph, Lale Kokamuda, Esadu Joseph, Katine Trading Center, Kotserere, Odorokeledu Edward, Achilo Trading Center, Elabu Stephen, Opawi Yang Olio, Ebamu John Robert, Obugondo, Ojinari, Kederoku Samuel, Otoror, Bugondo, Ajagan Joseph, Kadungulu Sub-County, Apio Naume, Olua Pingire, Ngora, Orokakuru to Betty, Ngora Golden, Adepo Immaculate, Omukura Sub-County, Alibu Julius, Okolo Inkapir, Oloiti William, Kodwarat, Keda Ongala Richard, Kobuini Sub-County, Iwo Momono Akor, Omo Machila.
It's amazing how delicious Tip-Top bread tastes.
Tip-Top bread. I need to get.
Tip-Top bread is the oldest brand in Ugandan market, established in 1956 with a range of products including different flavors of loaf, buns, mandazis, and much more. Tip-Top is certified by UNBS and comes in different colors like white bread, premium bread, brown, red, soft cake, and salt bread for those who don't take sugar. Find us at our main bakery in Jinja or our branch here in Soroti, located in Oderai, opposite Goshen Primary School, or call 0759 722 126. Tip-Top bread.
Well, that is it. We have about 5 minutes to the top of the hour. That will be 10 o'clock today, 21st of July 2021. We have a very beautiful episode here with Andrew Mwenda. The oldest man in the clan is here in Teso sub-region, and this morning we are discussing about the state of affairs of this country. We have also put it that we shall be able to touch about the poverty when we look at Teso sub-region, and we want also to look at the security situation, and that is where I need to connect it from our senior political analyst. Briefly, to highlight on some of the statements Andrew Mwenda has just concluded with, because he talked about the mocking, that he went to just mock National Unity Platform, a party. And we are talking about a transformation here. And then the other thing is we are still not doing well.
Well, Charles and listeners, Andrew Mwenda may have developed his own intentions with the NOP, and also has a right as a Ugandan, a choice of belonging, and his opinion.
But we're also talking about politics of syndicate.
Well, I mean, they all rotate within your rights.
Yes.
How do you manage your rights within the syndicate? Charles, you talked about the poverty in the region.
Yes.
People collect taxes to government. They don't collect taxes to an individual. And I think it's 100% the responsibility of government to own, I mean, the poverty rate in the Teso sub-region. Ever since NRM took over in 1986, I told you earlier on, a single factory was built 6 years ago, which is unable to accommodate our fruits. Even 5.0%, it cannot. Even 4.4%, it cannot. The other big burden, with all that challenge, they are not even buying fruits within the Teso sub-region. And I've not really read or accessed I mean government plan for Teso sub-region. You see, handouts such as Operation Wealth Creation and NADS are not sustainable. 100% are not sustainable. Those I would say those who run the system know when to bring seedlings, when to bring the sorghum. You can no longer, supply sorghum in the Teso sub-region. Government must establish industries, not one, not two. People have the energy. People have the raw material. Charles, when you talk about the cereals, every district in Teso, we produce maize. We can do value addition and send our maize across the continent. When you talk about honey, Teso is one of the regions with a lot of honey. We can, venture into honey. We also have resources such as, rocks and, I would say, fresh water. Do we have a partnership, even from private sector, such as Coca-Cola, Pepsi, committing, themselves to develop, the region. We also talked about beef. People in Teso, across all the swamps, people still have, animals. Where is the will, to add value? We talked about breeding centers in the sub-region. For you to talk about poverty, it is not only industrialization, it's also about production. You have the Serere
research.
Research, center. We need to understand that when you go to other regions, Nandala Mafabi worked hard, and he built his success of Bugisu within, the Bugisu Cooperative Union. We have a lot of GNATs here. Do we have one organized group that government has committed? Because government works with private sector. Government can deliberately discourage a private sector, member from investing in that region. What brings, us together? It's wealth. A region where people are able to pay school fees, where people are able to eat, they're able to treat themselves. It's not easy to manipulate politically. Besides that, which role are our leaders also playing? Those from the opposition and in the NRM. You need to understand, these are two fundamental problems. Our leaders must also organize people to address government challenge. As government entirely is responsible, is held accountable, because we collect taxes to government. Just you can't compare this region with the Lango, but we have better resources than Lango, better resources than Acholi. We are surrounded by lakes. Why can government come up with the irrigation? We can grow flowers. We have this airport, this flying school behind my back. For you to fly from here up to Entebbe, it's less than 40 minutes. You are able to offload the flowers and charter them to Middle East. You can even fly direct, I would say, up to Istanbul, Turkey, or Netherlands. So for me, a government commitment, and when I talked about fatigue, I think people need to shift their support somewhere. Who can listen to them better? I am not against the ministerial appointments, but history repeats itself. Before we had them, so it will be opportunity for individuals to survive. You talked about security. The districts of Katakwi and Kaplebiong, the Karamojongs are still killing people. With the well-versed UPDF number, the equipment, we are able to secure our borders. So the issue of security is a very big issue. Our people may keep quiet, our leaders may keep quiet. Recently, we buried an LDU boy killed by the Karamojong. He buried another soldier. So, government commitment to secure security and protect the people must be goal number one. People are in absolute poverty in Katakwi and Emuria and Kaplebiong. Another insecurity issue pops up at the border. These are two fundamental problems that we cannot hide, because you cannot hide a dead body. Someone was buried, not one, not two, and also are in charge. Talking about vice president, this would be the opportunity, the vice president, to someone they see.
I'll bring you back to that summary. Moses, let's first listen to this.
Yeah, with him, military background.
It's 10 a.m.
Agentune sawakalo ngesinu mtijo MTN itosoma pointa na konuka MTN senchu osodijo adumu na minatu luka titai MBs luka titai arai imessages luka titai echika star idopet wongon dopet hash oseku use points osodi atupaki unitubitai teteri dumuni aina kinadekon naka senchu.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Well, yes, Moses.
Charles,
make that summary.
The situation in Katakwi, the situation in Kaplebiong, calls for security intervention. I was bringing the point. Having positions without justification of I would say protecting the people is actually a very big challenge. And the reason why we are not bothered, because we do not have government investments here. A place with a high revenue, government can act because it can declare its position that we have interest in the region. Why it's important for government to invest as far as Katakwi, as far as Emuria, as far as Toroma, as far as Bukedia. It will even help curb the insecurity in the region, because you'll have people buying goods and selling. So government cannot abandon a facility of maybe 5 billion, 6 billion. So this problem of insecurity is also caused by lack of investments in the region. What are you protecting? And you know, the division commander advised people now to return cows to the kraal, which indicates they are unable to stop, the Karamojong attack in the region. So it's my humble appeal, whoever is listening, this is not a secret. The situation in Katakwi, in Kaplebyong, calls for action from UPDF. Thank you.
Right. Andrew, I need us to connect the dots there. We are talking about the security situation. We are also talking about the development of Teso. And that one directly, we need to understand from you when we talk about the national cake. In Teso here, the president has often come here telling people that give me leaders that can work with me. And Teso has always been responding to that. Except now that we had the engineer Patrick Amuriat's wave in the previous elections. And we are still wallowing in poverty. Yet the president says, give me people that I can work with, give me my people, people that understand my ideology, people that understand the way I operate and how government operates. What is the problem? And I need you to link that to the national cake, that the recent appointments, we had President Yoweri Museveni pronouncing that now Teso here, we have a woman coming from Teso as a vice president. We have ministers, we have full cabinet ministers, we have state ministers. And we have even some people in security. And we're talking about the security situation and the national cake.
So now, first of all, I should tell you that Teso has suffered the following problems. When Museveni came to power, you know when you are going to run, assuming we are running from Soroti to Kumi, isn't that about how many kilometers? 40? How many kilometers is it from here?
50.
So assuming you stand here at Soroti, me, I go to 10 kilometers from here. He goes 20 kilometers from here, another one 30 kilometers, and they say begin running. Who will arrive in Kumi first?
Depending on the speed.
Yes, but if I'm already 50 kilometers, if I'm already 40 kilometers ahead from you,
speed,
your competition will be low. So I think that Teso's journey to recovery started very late, because I just want to read you numbers. I don't know whether it's good for radio.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes, but Teso's journey started late. Remember that in the early years of Museveni, possibly the first 10 years, up to 2006 or 7, Teso was engulfed in conflict here. There was a war here. And I remember 2003, the Konyi even invaded Teso here.
That's true.
The war reached its apogee in 2003. So, because of continuous conflict, you lost a lot of your cattle, which was your stock of wealth from which income is generated, and less poverty. And I would say that Teso started digging itself out of the pit after 2006, 2007, 2008 there. So Teso has only had 12 years of stability and therefore economic development. You cannot therefore on that basis compare Teso with say Ankole or Toro or Kigezi or even Buganda, who have had a period of continuous peace and stability and therefore enjoyed the benefits of economic growth. For me, when it comes to discussing poverty in Uganda, the region that worries me is not Teso. It is Busoga and what originally was called Bukedi, which is Bugisu, Tororo, Busia, those areas, and the whole of Busoga, southeastern Uganda. Because they have had also prolonged stability, they sit on a major artery of Uganda to the coast, and poverty there has seemed intractable and is increasing. But if you look at areas like Lango, Acholi, and Teso, so I'm going to read you numbers, the performance over the last 12 years has been fairly good. Other than Karamoja, which really poverty. But even in Karamoja, when you look at the 2014 and 2016, 2013, 2014, then 2016, 2017 poverty numbers, in a beam, poverty reduced by about 31, in Ajumani, 32%. But I want to come to Emuria. Amolata, is it in...
No, that's Lango.
That's
Lango.
Yeah.
Amudat?
That's Karamoja.
Amuria?
That's Teso.
It increased by 0.1. So there was no improvement. It was 46% people living in poverty, 46.1. Amuru, it it went down significantly. Isn't Amur here?
No.
Amur is
That one
where?
is Lang.
Okay.
You would be talking about Soroti, Emuria, Serere, Kumi, Kedia, Ngora,
okay, I'm going to...
and Kabermaido.
Okay, I'm going to be...
Katakwi, there.
Let me look for Soroti.
Okay, as you get into that.
Yes. So the bottom line is this, that although there is a perception here that there is widespread poverty, there has been improvement in the poverty numbers over the last 12 years. Now, of course, Soroti, Teso areas may not be doing as well as Western Uganda and Buganda, which have enjoyed peace for a very long period of time, but there has been significant improvement in these areas. What I can say about these areas is that I don't know the nature of the politicians here and the culture of the society here. I don't know the negotiating capacity of the people here to negotiate for resources from the central government. I don't know many of your businessmen who are interested in reinvesting here in Soroti. So it's very difficult to know what are the factors that may drive, the factors that have helped Western Uganda overcome poverty, because most of the people in Western Uganda who live in Kampala, they go back and invest in their home areas. And when they invest in the home areas, they create what we call a demonstration effect. And by demonstration effect, I mean that if I, Andrew Mwenda, go and create a model farm in my village, I build a nice house, I inspire so many people there to do the same. So if you go to Western Uganda, you will see leadership by example, by elites of Western Uganda who have come to Kampala, and really there is also the advantage that many Westerners dominate the government. This government is a Western-dominated government. Too many Westerners in it, in most of the influential positions, whether it's cabinet, government agencies, security organizations, and that has also sprinkled over to the West, which may not favor Teso.
And that's why we talk about the national cake.
Yes.
Yes.
So you cannot, we
dominance
cannot escape from the fact that the dominance of Westerners in power has also contributed to the economic dynamism of Western Uganda. We can also not ignore the fact that Buganda is where Kampala is, and the center of economic gravity has benefited Buganda historically. So it may be that we need at one point to have a president picked from Teso, so that the areas of Teso, Karamoja, and may also be able to benefit. He needs to be a president who comes with a large coalition of people from East and Northeastern Uganda. That's what I suspect.
And Teso has already been fronting.
The only thing that intrigues me is when Milton Obote was president in the 80s, his government was dominated by Banyankole. You know that? Bushenyi was the biggest anchor of UPC. So it is also possible that people in southwestern Uganda are so politically aggressive that regardless of which government is in power, they will be dominant. But I also know that during Obote too, Teso was a strong player in that government, because Teso was a very strong UPC constituency, wasn't it?
It is.
Yes. So.
Oh, it was.
It is difficult to know what it is, because I wonder, for example, Masaka used to be highly productive in bananas. It used to be a dynamic area, and they used to grow coffee and cotton, and rather coffee especially. They were rich compared to Western Uganda, but today, parts of Buganda, if you look at these poverty numbers, Buganda has started lagging behind Western Uganda. I don't know why it is like that. I don't understand why Busoga would remain that poor. Is it because it's dominated by the sugarcane industry? Because when I go to Western Uganda, I'm really impressed by the change that has taken place. I find ordinary farmers, these are people who have not benefited anything from government. They just produce their bananas and sell them. They just produce their milk, goats, cows, chicken, whatever it is that they're involved in agriculture, Irish potatoes, beans, maize. That's what they trade.
Maybe they have access to market.
So, but here you have very nice roads. You should be having access to markets. But those people, you remember that Fort Portal, where I come from, is 300 kilometers from Kampala. Soroti, you're 250?
No, 300.
300.
Yeah.
But because, 300, same distance. And those people, I don't, if I was to think about it, what do they benefit from government? I ask them, the guy has a decent house, a brick house with a proper roof, with glass windows, even with tiles on the floor, and he even has a car park. They say, how did you make money? He said, I have 16 acres of land, I plant bananas, I'm doing some fish farming, I plant maize. This is an agriculturalist. Purely dependent on agriculture for his income, and is doing very well. So when people, my friends from Busoga have been there, tell me about poverty, I ask myself, what is it? Is it that land there is fragmented? But when you go to Kigezi, land is more fragmented in Kigezi than in Busoga. But why are the Bachiga doing much better? So these are questions that I would want to hear Uganda's researchers and academics explain to us.
So does
we
that
may always think that it is politics. Let me give you another example. One of the districts where poverty has significantly reduced is a district called Kalangala. Kalangala was one of the poorest districts in Uganda. Then there was this project of Bidco. You know a company called Bidco? They produce aniseed oil. They produce soap and things like that. Government started a palm oil project there. Right now, because of that project, many people have been gotten involved in the commercial agriculture, either they are outgrowers for palm oil or oil palm. And right now, it's among the top, the districts among the top 10 where there is this poverty in Uganda is Kalangala. So for me, I would ask myself, what are the industries or agricultural enterprises we need to do in Teso that can improve incomes here? One of the things I know historical about Teso is your cattle keepers. You know, I come from a cattle keeping background. In that sense, I am also a Teso. In fact, when I was young, we had a man called Lem from Teso who was working in our farm, in our cows. That's how I learned that. But Teso, your biggest occupation is cattle keeping. Then there was, I think, looting of your cows during the war and things like that. Then there was a restocking program. I don't know how it worked. So what I would like to know is how much cows have been restocked in Teso. Are people still grazing cows? If people are still grazing cows, what are the kinds of industries you need in Teso? You're talking about meat packers?
Yeah.
A meat packing factory, so that what is the cost of beef here?
It's about 14,000.
Yeah, we buy a kilo at 14.
14,000.
14, 16.
So
It
that's a very high
depends.
price.
Depending on the location.
Yes, but that's a very high price. So why are people not producing a lot of beef? Given that if I rear cows, I will, and I have a cow of 200 kilograms, I will all of a sudden have 2.8 million shillings.
Now, Andrew, I need you to connect these. You know, recently and right now, Teso is excited of the recent placements that we have seen here in Teso. I talked about the vice president. I talked about the cabinet ministers and the ministers in the making. Now, is there any need for us to be excited? Because you're saying it's a different thing. It's about people themselves, not even the leaders.
Well, I think that when you in Uganda, because of our ethnic diversity, when one of our own, a daughter or son of the soil, is appointed to higher office in the government, it has a very important psychological effect. People feel that we belong to that government. People feel we are the center of power. People feel we are included and we are participating. So I do not want to downplay the importance, the emotional and psychological satisfaction people in Teso may get when my granddaughter Jessica Alupo was appointed vice president. It is very powerful.
It should be a psychological smile.
Yes, yes. As I told you, let me give you an example. When before Barack Obama was elected president, American researchers did a test on the test scores. They did a research on the test scores of black kids in different schools. And the kids were scoring very low marks. When Obama was elected president, they did a second research. And they found that the test results, the performance in class of black kids in America had greatly improved. Because African Americans have been given this idea that you are backward, you are this, you are this. So to see one of their own
inferiority complex
be elected president gave them a morale booster, or for that matter, improved their confidence, and the improvement in their confidence led to the better performance. So I am sure that don't underestimate the psychological effect of Alupo being vice president. The people of Teso may feel, oh, they will walk with their heads high. That itself is satisfying. But also, the young kids in Teso girls and boys may say, well, I also can be vice president, I also can be president. That's a very important thing. How much Jessica Alupo and the other ministers from Teso who have been appointed can negotiate for resources from the central government, I don't know. Although I am inclined to believe that oftentimes we think that the government is the vehicle through which you can combat poverty. Yes, it is possible, but it is not always the case. It's not always the case. In my culture, there is a saying that please, the gods help me, that the gods will help you, the gods of the clan will help you if you have also put in your own effort. I am much more interested in coming and living here and understanding the nature of the society here. And I would advise young people who may be listening and viewing us right now, instead of you asking yourself, what can the government do for me? You need to begin thinking of what can I do for myself, or what can I do for my country? President Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. But for me also, what can you do for yourself? One of the problems I have with many young people in Kampala, whom I encounter only on social media, is that they have this belief that somehow government is responsible for their well-being. Government can make a contribution, but that contribution cannot even constitute 5% of your success. I think 95% of our success comes from ourselves. You must get off your laurels, you must get off your chairs, and go out there, fold your sleeves, and work for yourself. So if you have studied and gotten a degree, and you say you are entitled to a job because you have a degree, I think that's a wrong attitude. For me, always I ask my friends, what are the skills that you have, and how marketable are they to those who want to employ? You know, I am an employer. I own businesses. I'm a shareholder in some businesses. Can I tell you, Charles, the biggest challenge we face, Moses?
Yeah, let's have
skills.
1 or 2.
It is not that there are no jobs in Uganda. In fact, Uganda is teeming with Indians, Chinese, Kenyans, people from Zimbabwe. We import labor from outside as expatriates to come and work here. Muzungu. We have so many foreigners working in this country because if you're looking for an excellent accountant, graphics designer, a marketing manager, a salesperson, we don't have those skills in Uganda. So many Ugandans think that there's a problem maybe of unemployment that is just driven by lack of skills, because our factories and restaurants and hotels can't find the right people to hire, and they go to Kenya to find them.
So what is the
challenge? If you are a young person, I say, do you have marketable skills? Do you have skills demanded and required by employers? If you went and studied psychology or political science or sociology, is that what employers are looking for?
So what is the quality of skill in Uganda that the
this
government
is what I'm
is
coming
talking
to, Charles.
about? Yes.
Every day in Kampala, when I want a plumber, when I want a carpenter, when I want an electrician, when I want a gardener to look after my garden, and I call them, many people who come cannot even speak English, meaning they never went to school. So how did they learn that skill? Through practice. In a cutaway, they learned welding on the job. If they're mechanics, they learned how to repair a car from the job. They're not trained. So the question is, why don't our people who are educated have skills? Because one is government policy. Government converted many technical colleges into universities, and these universities are teaching humanities. They are teaching professions that are not easily marketable in the field. Two, our also education system tends to equip us with an attitude that if you're a plumber, it means is a degrading activity. If you're a carpenter, if you're a welder, if you're a mechanic, it's a degrading field. But can I tell you, when a plumber comes to my house and works for just 1 hour to fix something, I pay 50,000. So if he goes to 3 houses per day or 4 houses to fix plumbing and he gets 200,000, isn't that 6 million a month? I think they're the highest earning, but university graduates in Uganda are 800,000. So now I used to complain that maybe government killed technical schools. Government of Uganda has moved ahead and established technical schools across the whole country. Are you aware? They're empty. Ugandans don't want to go and study technical skills. I advise people, if you finish senior 4 or senior 6, instead of going to university to study psychology and sociology, maybe go to a technical college and get what we applied skills. What are applied skills? Learn how to be a carpenter, learn how to be a mason, how to be an electrician, how to be a mechanic in a garage, and how to be but practical skills, because these practical skills are lacking on a daily basis.
Andrew, I just want us to share 5 minutes on this. We talk about external factors for security and trade when we talk about diplomacy and relations. Andrew, you've been playing this game of diplomacy, relations, and so on. What do you think Uganda is up to when we see Uganda-Rwanda intentions, when we see the issue of Ugandan soldiers in Somalia, South Sudan, playing politics of external countries? We also saw Kenya recently saying no to our products, to their country. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, let me address one key I know about very well, the relationship between Uganda and Rwanda. I think that the failure of that relationship is a sad development in President Yoweri Museveni's vision of economic integration. For the little that I was involved in, I felt that the government of Uganda failed to play the right role And the consequence was that the government of Rwanda imposed a trade embargo on Uganda, and that trade embargo has meant that many Ugandan manufacturers, many Uganda skilled people who work in Rwanda have lost, manufacturers and farmers have lost markets in Rwanda because Rwanda was a major export market for Uganda.
That is it.
We were actually Rwanda's supermarket. Many Rwandan students were coming and studying in Uganda. Uganda was earning in excess of 400 to 500
We have now
million.
oil even going to...
Yes, so we lost anything between $450 to $500 million a year in terms of earnings. If we had been able to understand Rwanda's fears and anxieties and address them, that would not have happened. So that was a failure of Uganda's diplomacy. And I think that we surrendered our diplomacy to Uganda's intelligence organizations who started driving our diplomatic relations with Rwanda. It would have done better if we had identified people who care about our trade and were willing to put our trade interests ahead of everything else, so that even if we had differences with Rwanda, we could sit around the table and discuss them. We did not do that. So that was failure number one. As to Uganda's involvement in South Sudan, for example, I think it's a good thing to help stabilize South Sudan, because South Sudan is a very important destination for Ugandan exports. At the height, in about 2008, we were exporting about $700 million worth of goods. Now we are doing about 400 million because the country has fallen apart. But that's still a very good thing. So keeping an eye on our relations with South Sudan is a strategic imperative for Uganda. You may have noticed that Uganda is working with Congo to build roads into Eastern Congo, into Eastern DRC.
Yeah.
Because Congo, we export about $500 million worth of goods to Congo. So that's a very good thing. So if you ask me, I think that it's a very good initiative, and Uganda should explore working closely with Congo to build a road that moves from, we are building a road from the border, which is called Impondwe, but on the side of Congo it's called Kasindi, from Kasindi to Beni, Beni to Butembo. We need to build a road from Beni to Bunia, or from Nebi to Bunia. It's just 200 kilometers, Nebi to Bunia, but we need to have a road that connects Uganda to Kisangani. If we ever get a road to Kisangani, I can tell you it will transform Uganda's economy. In the sense that you have a huge market there that is undersupplied. You have Ugandan factories that cement industries, manufacturing industries, companies like Biduko, Mukwano, whoever you can talk about. They will have to increase their scale and scope in order to be able to feed the Congolese market. And it will change the face of Uganda. And that is, if you ask me, that is one thing Uganda should do. Focus on trying to work with Congo to develop infrastructure in Eastern DRC and be able to reach Kisangani. So that is a third thing. Let me come to Kenya and Tanzania. In 2000, Uganda exported goods worth $16 million to Kenya. Kenya exported goods to Uganda worth $320 million. So Kenya was exporting to Uganda 20 times more than Uganda was exporting to Kenya. In 2018, Uganda exported to Kenya goods worth $700 million. Kenya exported to Uganda goods worth $500 million. Uganda had grown and overtaken Kenya in terms of as a destination for our exports. We had a trade surplus with Kenya of $200 million in 2018. The response of Kenya is that Uganda is, remember we had been suffering a huge trade deficit with Kenya for all those years, for the last, I think, about 25 years. So when Uganda started leapfrogging Kenya, the Kenyans got scared and they started putting restrictions on the export of Ugandan eggs, Ugandan chicken, Uganda's milk, and other Ugandan products.
So hold
a second, Charles. Okay. Uganda has done little or nothing. President Museveni said we should not retaliate by also imposing restrictions on their goods. I will talk to Uhuru, whom I don't think he has talked too much. So the Ugandan traders, the producers of poultry products and milk, are stuck, and we are losing a lot of money. I personally think that Kenya is abusing the rules of the East African community, and Uganda needs to do something. What it is, I think we are not doing anything. The second country is Tanzania. Uganda used to enjoy an impressive trade surplus with Tanzania. Tanzania has since imposed restrictions on Ugandan goods. For example, they have imposed an arbitrary illegal tax of $1 per liter of milk. You know, a liter of milk. $1 is 3,600 shillings. a liter of milk is 1,000. So literally making it impossible for Uganda to export to Tanzania. Meanwhile, Uganda has not done anything to stop Tanzania's products from coming. So by 2015, Uganda was exporting goods worth $120 million to Tanzania and importing 70 million. Now Tanzania is exporting to us we're importing from Tanzania up to about $150 million worth and exporting only 70 million, not because of Tanzania, because Tanzania has increased its competitiveness the way Uganda did with Kenya, but because Tanzania has imposed trade restrictions and imposed illegal and unfair tariffs on our products. There is a failure again of diplomacy. Uganda needs to engage Tanzania to ensure that the rules of the South African community are respected. Because one of the reasons why Uganda has been a successful trader in this region is we have a very cheap currency. If you have 1 Kenya shilling, you can buy, at one time, now you can buy 33, but at that time you could buy 40 Uganda shillings. If you have 1 Rwanda franc, you get 5 Uganda shillings. If you have 1 Tanzanian shilling, you can buy 3 Uganda shillings. You see, so that is why you are seeing many students from Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda coming to Uganda because they come with their money and they buy a lot of our money. Ugandans don't understand that it is important, it is very good for us to have a cheap currency. When you see our currency going against the dollar, it's good for us. So people were coming from these countries, neighboring countries, with their local currency. When they converted into Uganda's currency, they got a lot of money and they were able, therefore, to command a large basket of goods and services.
Yeah, Andrew Mwenda, I see our time is getting fast spent here. We have 30 minutes to get out of this place, and maybe I will bring you up to speed. A quick one on this. If you're saying we have this with the Rwanda, we have this with the Tanzania and Kenya, do you think that we are running in invisible or visible economic war? And what will be the effectiveness of the East African community?
I actually have a very doomsday view of the South African community. Not that I even think it should exist, but if it exists, I think that it is not working as it should work. Because our problems with Kenya and Tanzania are different from our problems with Rwanda. Our problems with Kenya and Tanzania are that they have imposed trade restrictions on us, which go contrary to the South African community. Our problems with Rwanda is that Rwanda has what I consider legitimate security concerns with Uganda, which I felt Uganda should have facilitated or accepted a continuous, effective dialogue on those complaints Rwanda was raising. We didn't. And therefore, Rwanda's actions were a product of a long period of frustration of trying to reach out to us and say, please, can you listen to us? We are afraid of this. We think you are not doing this correctly. We think you are hurting us when you do this. We think you are training, you are giving you are allowing our enemies to organize on your territory. Rwanda had so many complaints. I cannot go through them. I have written about them in The Independent, and on my Facebook page you should read them. They had many, many complaints. President Paul Kagame himself raised these complaints to me so many times. He said, please, I was his advisor. So I used to sit on his Presidential Advisory Council, and he would raise all these complaints. And as a Ugandan, I felt frustrated because my country was not addressing those concerns until they reached such a crisis moment that Rwanda imposed a trade, imposed a trade, whatever, on Uganda. Said, okay, we'll not continue to deal with you if you are threatening our security. Now, it is possible that maybe Rwanda had wrong intelligence. It's possible Rwanda misunderstood Uganda's intentions. It's possible. So many things are possible, but what stopped us from talking to them?
Okay.
These are our neighbors. We should have created sufficient time and space to engage in a continuous, deep dialogue with them. And this dialogue never took place until they reached the point of frustration where they said, okay, to hell.
All right. Thank you. Let's first run this short commercial break. And Moses, you'll have some insights on what we're discussing when we talk about diplomacy and relations, Uganda and other foreign countries.
This is Voice of Teso, 88.4, the people's choice.
Enjoy the new, refreshing and zest taste of Mirinda Orange. Grab yourself an ice-cold Mirinda Orange at any shop or supermarket near you and let the new taste make you orange.
I can't turn back time, but I can choose how to live my life. With the new Move It Relaxer Cream, I get to wear my hair just like I live my life. The newly improved Move It Relaxer has a moisture lock ingredient that guarantees stronger, longer, healthy hair. So beat the stereotypes with the new Move It Relaxer. Go naturally curly, bouncy, or straight. Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary. Movit Relaxer's impact on black hair is dazzling. So get moving with Movit. You'll definitely stand out. Movit. All-day confidence.
Did you know that you can make extra money off clean energy products? Use your boda to not only carry your customers, but also deliver their product at a small fee. Partner with other clean energy agents to deliver for their clients too, as you both make extra money. Involve your wife, your children, and even your neighbors to become clean energy agents. You will not only create employment opportunities, but make and save money for the future. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and the Uganda National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Alliance with support from GIZ, Promotion of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Program. Clean energy for a better life.
Ejakaito pio, yoga beri, wala riyobiai.
Wala tmero joko chute, ido jo.
Atamango notama na kutadum na gonka tajo, konya amenengo.
Ai ya, ngese jo palisi. A jotengo o palisi la Euroform. Itosomaje Euroform, itumuna ya, ai amakin keda jo no joka. Ikwenyuni keda gogomuna tia kwanakon. Kanwa uriana, ayeng, ajo no joka. No de poda kon hijar. Itosomana ne palisi luka Euroform. Ipalisen luka Euroform ngesi ya makena ikwamete di napakena eperota riona rakonija ay made konepora o joko chod ipalisen luka Euroform ngesi de dawte company lo UNBS akwetar keda wanyanar kanwaje no nwepo no makse simu lolola titai ko nambe noti kanyawuni note uni kanyawuni kanyape a note ipalisen ko sulwa Euroform ngesi duma kinjo duka ikere ay ramunita kopuno Uganda Euroform ajo no ajoka.
It's so clear, my dear. Feel it, taste it. Crystal natural mineral water. Crystal natural mineral water is rewarding, refreshing, and healing. You can face the sun, so beat the heat when you hit the road. I would give anything because crystal is everything. Because crystal is everything. Crystal natural mineral water is life.
Crystal water is a product of Harris International.
Yeah, well, atekeri kwangeni utainya kunu joto mo program alo ido dakana ne peta kaisare kidai won alo marsan kanyulwa tupruch and tumo studios jakere jakai Andrew Mwenda erai rotani emuto leko kosanti chutido somai keda krono duchu wa misi kine pole soma tarapu ganasha iboro aneotoma kwa poko Uganda tina kwa psine da chienu okinga. And we have talked a number of issues. Nera Kronwe Po and Otomo Studios. Yes, Moses, let me bring you up to speed on that because we need to open our lines and even run through some messages that people have sent in.
Charles and the listeners, if you mix diplomacy and intelligence,
okay,
they can share information. But I think what Uganda lacks is also to groom diplomats, not commission men, not security agencies. Security agencies can pick information which threatens their country all over the globe if they are able to pick the information. You need also to understand the personal relationship between President Museveni and Paul Kagame. And the accusations of repatriation of refugees, even from both sides, I think to me raised a lot of questions. And you cannot address that by deploying. You cannot address that by embargo or sanction. You would have used the diplomatic approach, which calls for ambassadors, foreign ministers, and other well-wishers who operate within the system of Rwanda and Uganda. The other critical thing, I think the visible hand of the rebel groups, each of them suspected, who was housing the enemy. Now, the biggest problem we have, not only, I would say, at the global level, once you trust in intelligence with everything, you lose out on credibility. Some people who are willing to give a diplomatic information may not give. We talked about the competition within the region, us and other countries. I think when you talk about Sudan, it is easier Sudan to do a lot of business with us due to their lack of industries and quality. Now, I think what Uganda needs to invest as government is to improve the quality of the products that we sell to other countries, which includes milk and other things. I followed very well the economic war between Tanzania and Uganda, and Kenya. Magufuli actually banned a lot of chicken. Chicken, feeds, and also chicks and beef, because the Kenyan companies were not meeting the agreed position and the standard of the goods. So for me, Uganda to fail to export her goods to the neighboring country, it's not only the geopolitics, it calls for the quality. What are you producing? We all know the foreigners are after repatriating the profit back to their countries. So when you're handling business with foreigners in your own country, don't expect a foreigner to produce a product that takes his profit. That is a lie. You have to invest and build your own graduates, build your own traders, build your own people to that level of, competing with Kenya. You remember very well that Kenya is the economic power in East Africa. So you don't expect to send your substandard goods to Kenya, which competes with other countries in Western Africa. So for me, the biggest failure of government is to regulate quality. We have so many, I would say, counterfeit chemicals, counterfeit goods, counterfeit what. So you both, as institution, mandated to run the system, has also been infiltrated by those who want to manufacture things locally and sell them within Uganda.
All right.
When they are stuck, they try to sell them to East African community. The other people have their own, because they produce for their country, they sell for their country, they are for that country. So you are not going to impose your poor quality to the other person who has quality. The other thing, Charles, interestingly, about Rwanda, I'm not a Rwandese. I've been there maybe 4 or 5 times. I think Uganda, recklessly, we give out information. We do not have a heart to differentiate a state, a political party, and whom we are fighting. So it is easier for any Ugandan who is not in line with government to mix and forget he's not a Ugandan. He easily gives out information. On the other side, also the language, for you to understand the language may not be possible. And that war of economic embargo was also by politicians and by activists to portray that it's impossible for the two countries to reconcile. And above all, once you trust diplomacy with intelligence, including the United States, CIA will do their work. But the Secretary of State will take the center stage to negotiate. Failure to do that, then they can take a military action. But with us here, everything we do, you have security operatives. You have ISO, CMI, and what saying, we are in charge, you have arrested them. And you cannot continue conducting arrest, the same time negotiating. You have to de-escalate, the tension and normalize. If the other person is to succumb to your conditions, you must admit and normalize in your argument, because facts can be presented. Thank you.
Well, let's run through some of these messages and people coming on board. If you're joining us, you can as well call us on 0392840840, 0701 884 Number ilesimun prayer jukakin. So SMS also on 0775 840 832. Yauni ya konuwa mission etomo studios. Ano a program no jaye emoroto mapakna lolo. We been running it keda musugun kwenye cham tubonebe jenango upano keda wako program anepane keda dakana no etpak tosko so ikon simu kopo kwa nado oto mapakna so jaya ununu kone au mission. Let me shoot. Somebody says that the problem with Andrew Mwenda is that firstly he sees Besigye and Bobby Wine as the only opposition in Uganda and doesn't consider peace and people man from deep down in Ngora or Serere. So whenever he gives his opinion on opposition, he begins by attacking the two. Secondly, he is equally hostile to opposition and he never gives an advice, but he specializes in criticizing the opposition of the elite. I have not had a comment about the recent outburst of General Tumwine He bashed Amama Mbabazi when Amama stood against General Museveni. He also bashed Kale Kaihura after he was removed from being IGP. He bashed Tumukunde. He called Poa as a villager. In my opinion, Mwenda, you may be a tribalist who is never neutral. You respond to that. And then there's... no, let's first get some of them, then you...
He has called me a tribalist. So, me, I am a Mutoro. Museveni is a Munyankole. Amama Mbabazi is a Muchiga. Kale Kaihura is a Munyarwanda. Okay, they may say Mfumbira, but really Munyarwanda. That's, I think, Mfumbira Munyarwanda. So, Emuria is a Teso. Besije is a Mhororo. So, I'm a tribalist in which way? Am I against the Machiga? I am a tribalist in favor of Nyankore. Because the people who have opposed Museveni come, some of them, like Besije, they come from the same village in Mpororo. Museveni himself, by the way, historically should be a Mhororo. Or his mother came from Mpororo. So, that is unfair. But two, I have sat on this show, criticized Museveni, said his government is tired, his government is corrupt, his government has lost the vision. I said, how come he doesn't talk about that? How come he's sensitive to my criticism of the opposition, but ignores my criticism of the Museveni government?
Okay. And then somebody says, let me ask Mwenda, what is the greatest challenge that Uganda currently faces towards transforming the well-being of its citizens? What is the root cause? What we are
that's a very serious guy.
down.
Who is that guy?
Okay.
Who is that person who has asked that question? Because I want to buy him a beer.
Really,
because that's what we should be discussing, not these petty things. Uganda faces two challenges, Charles. One.
Yeah, this one is Ariong Moses.
Ariong Moses. Ariong Moses, I am in Soroti. If you are living in Soroti, come and buy you a beer today before I leave. Otherwise, when I leave, I will not send you mobile money. But to answer your question, which is very important, Uganda has two challenges. How do we ensure that Ugandans, they may be Bateso, they may be Bayindi, they may be Wazungu, Chinese, but they are Ugandans. Their base is Uganda. Ugandans own their economy. That's the first thing. How much of this economy, of the big businesses you see, whatever, is owned by our own people? That is our first challenge.
Let me first pick this person before they lose trust on us, because they are online for
that guy will be the one who asked me a serious question because he's utilizing my time very well.
Yes, good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning to Hawaii.
Fine, thank you.
How's your place?
Oh. You see now you have ruined our
it's okay.
So,
yeah.
So that is the first
we
thing.
Shall keep picking them.
The first challenge of Uganda is to ensure that the Ugandan state and the Ugandan people, Ugandan citizens, or those people resident in Uganda, are the ones who are in charge of this economy. It's a very important thing. For as long as our economy is controlled by foreigners, I can promise you there is very little value we shall be getting. Two, the second challenge Uganda faces in transforming the economy is we must add value on the things we produce and sell. The idea that we can sell coffee and beans in their raw form, even for the next 500 years, and we get out of poverty is a myth. I can promise you, for as long as you see us exporting raw coffee, for as long as you see we are not expanding Night Hill and other garment factories to consume all the cotton we produce and convert it to cloth and maybe make it into expensive brands. I should have come wearing A brands. There is a Ugandan brand maker called A brands.
Somebody is already with us online.
Okay, hello? Just a moment. So we need to add value to our exports.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, good morning, sir.
Yes, Charles, good morning.
Fine, thank you.
Thanks for the program.
Thanks for being part of the show.
Yes. You're speaking to Soroti here.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I first want to congratulate Andrew Mwenda for articulating those issues.
Okay.
In fact, it is for the first time he's recognizing that President Museveni's government is becoming tired. So I am looking forward to reading. Yes.
He wants to talk to you directly.
Yes.
Okay, maybe a quick one on that. Yes. What
you are blended. You cannot say it's the first time. Every day I appear on TV.
Okay.
Go on NBS Frontline every day. I mentioned that I think President Museveni is tired.
Okay.
How can you say it's the first time?
Okay, let him complete. Hello.
Okay, I am looking forward to reading an article from you about the political transition in Uganda, because I don't want to see a case like in Benin where the military will take over.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. He says he's still waiting to read an article written by you, especially on the transformation. It's not. It shouldn't be like Haiti. Okay, let's first have this one.
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Good morning. Yogang icon kiron.
Narazo kadanya malosilo.
Yes. Balajay.
Akotoma limo na jakati ngoni bonbe. E mangone na jakati ngona apase tungang na ure ngalo Teso. Ener na beni nera oni kiere mamene jara dope. Mebu ni ande por far ke kiri yakole na kere pota ngala oni bejo kapuga yon kopito sone. Iboro ni fukere jaso nyankole. Iwala ni factor ni fukere jasa kanini. Enga factor na muchu gada e mambo recha nenda. Tadexa ni puna joka kere jasi na. Oni logane mamediki adexa. Nera esa ni bodona kona pugana ni ko e pona tege polon. Apa yang ida jakati ngoni bonwe. Pero bere kwana asunya rare atakana ke pona tuzara de kachiara atwana rekwa. Inga bere temo to kesi. Kapa ebulba ya ngarake jengen. Yo ngari mo leja kadi ngari mo jakati ngoni bonwe. Iye ke jakati ngoni atema be ko ngona kwa sata. Okay. Ai apagala gile jakati ngoni oroni mo bebe be papa. Pop. Ada unu. Kama mekere mo bebe na sabe be nganga ito gale tunga.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Yalamanoi. He's also talking about the transformation of this country, that you could be lying here, because when you look at the national cake, everything has gone to Western. I don't want to go into detail because our time is running out, but that is it. The national cake itself has gone to Western. And also assuming Museveni dies, God forbid, who are you preparing? Okay, let's first run through some of this. Andrew, just bear with me. Let me get some callers. Hello? Yes, good morning.
Hello, Charles Hacker. Morning.
Yes.
This is Emma Orade.
Yes, Emma Orade.
Now, for me, Andrew was talking about people not being serious, not embracing the factories. Just look at, for example, for us, the fruit factory. When they were bringing it, they were saying they were bringing the factory that would handle the local mangoes, local oranges. But at the end of the day, what happened? They brought the factory that handles only including oranges and mangoes. How do you have to blame the locals now? That was the government that did that. For example, the issues of the transformation, the cake sharing. I know in Uganda, we just have this post for excitement, but nobody performs their duty as per given in the offices. So for us to be proud that we have a vice president, that's what you can see. You will see what happens. We have had ministers, for example, in Emuria. Dongo and Emuria have been ministers for over 3 years, but it's 3 terms. But what has happened in Emuria? There is no transformation completely. So meaning that this ministerial posts, they are just by name. But when to act comes to actions, people don't perform. They are told what to do and what not to do. So the only thing for me I know, it's only God that has to rescue Uganda one day.
Okay, thank you. He has put it unto God. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Morning to you.
Fine, thank you. Your name, sir?
This is Reverend Philip Maraka.
Question or comment?
Yes, I want to contribute to the conversation in the studios.
Yeah, it's okay. You can give us up to speed because our time is running out.
Yes, in the first place, I want to thank Andrew for coming to Teso, and all the people who are listening to his conversation must understand that Andrew is a very bold and courageous man, and whatever he discusses is from the bottom of his heart. Now, the other thing I want to challenge Andrew is that sometime back I read his profile. He's advisor to the president of Rwanda, I think even at one time the prime minister of Denmark, and also now the president of Uganda. How come that the presidents that he is advising are suspicious of one another? Where is the problem? Is it the problem on the advisor, or they are not taking advice?
And also, lately, Andrew, I'm not reading the Independent. I need the Independent copy. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah.
The Independent is available online. So you can go on www.independent.co.ug. You can both read the print magazine in PDF. It is there. And you can also read it just as on the internet. But let me come to the second thing. When you advise people, you are just volunteering advice. Whether they take your advice or not, it depends on them. So, really, if I advise President Museveni or advise President Kagame, it is not me finally who makes the decision. It is the person. It is they can take my advice at their pleasure. In any case, I am not infallible myself. My advice may even be stupid or unrealistic or naive. You never know. And I consider that a man who has been president for 35 years must know these things better than me. Because me, I'm a theoretician, for him is a practitioner, and people in practice maybe understand these things better. But let me come to the person who asked me a question on transition. Is there any other thing he asked that I have not answered?
Yeah, I think you've tried, but...
I want the guy who asked me about transition.
He wants you to write a book. He's waiting to read a book.
About
transition.
I think I'm a very lazy man. I should have written 20 books by now. But let me come to a young man who asked me about transition. And you, Charles, I want the person to ask you a question and answer them directly without us speaking to many calls.
Okay.
Because I forget. I think a transition in Uganda is absolutely important and necessary. Perhaps we need to ask ourselves, what transition are we looking for? Because Ugandans have a very shallow view of a transition. We may think that a transition is a shift from Museveni to Mwenda. You can have that kind of transition without having a transition. But let me ask you this. One of the things Museveni has done, which I would credit him for, is he did a transition in the UPDF. In the UPDF, the first crop of generals who ran the army were General Tumwine, General Salim Saleh, General Frederick Jema. That first group, they removed them. A second generation of leaders came who were Mujisha Muntu, you could say even the Kazinis. That was the second generation. Then there was the third generation of leaders of the army, which was Aronda, Biraro, Tumukunde. That was the third generation. And if you look at the layers of age and things like that, then we have the fourth generation, which was David Muhoozi, Leopold Kyanda, the current CDF Mbadi. So you have, this is now we are in the fourth generation. So if you ask me about the leadership of the army, Museveni may remain commander-in-chief, but the attitudes, the values, the approaches of this young leadership. Now you are seeing David Muhoozi Kainerugaba, Leopold Kyanda, then we have James Mujira, Muzei Sabiti or Sabiti Muzei, you have Mbadi, the CDF. This is the fourth generation. Now, this is the kind of transition Uganda needs. I wish and I hope that that kind of leadership transition, Museveni can remain on top. But if I can see that in the NRM, that NRM has transited and you have, because we are seeing it in the current cabinet, you have Jessica Lupo, you have Nabanja, because away from Amama Mbabazi and Rugunda, who are Museveni's estimates. Now we are seeing entirely young and new people, Jessica Lupo, Nabanja, and they are the ones taking the lead. You get it? So that is the kind of transition Uganda should be looking at. I hope that those people are not just occupying offices, but they actually have effective power, both in the party and the government, to run things.
All right.
And hold a second, and that the president listens to them. I would want to see that generational change also in the civil service. I could see the other day there is an attempt in the civil service to bring younger permanent secretaries, to bring new people. So for me, that is a kind of transition that Uganda needs. Museveni can remain president because remember that we are unlikely to succeed in killing him or defeating him or whatever it is. The person was talking about Haiti. But if he can see that both the party, the bureaucracy, the cabinet, which is the executive, the judiciary, more young people with different ideas, different attitudes are able to come and take positions of leadership, that is a very effective transition. So that it is a transition of ideas, a transition of generations, a transition of approaches and attitudes that Uganda needs. Otherwise, you look at the United States of America. Since Museveni came to power, they have had presidents, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, then we have Trump and 7 presidents. Do you know that system has not changed at all? They are the same people they keep recycling. A president may change, if you have an election in America, on about 3 or 4% of Congress, the parliament changes. You have 97, 95% remaining in their positions. But in Uganda, you have 70% of parliamentarians losing elections in every election. So we need a change that is broader than a mere human being called Museveni. Honestly, I consider Museveni a small player in a big issue called Uganda.
Right. Moses, your final remark there, then final and
I think for me, Charles, and the
time is
listeners, is to improve the welfare of Ugandans.
Okay.
We are talking about a local man being able to, to raise school fees, the traders being listened to, resolve the issue of counterfeit goods. The other thing, to implement political reforms that will enable systems to operate. Yeah, the critical thing, and Mwenda has talked about the private sector. Charles and the listeners, individuals who run companies can be used as a role model in society. In area where you do not have anybody doing proper business in the village, you do not have a model farm, you do not have a model warehouse, organize a local farmers, identify if the president could listen. I want to speak as a leader of Teso.
Let's first accomplish this.
It's 11 o'clock.
Gentleness awakalo ngesinum tijo MTN itasoma pointa na konuka MTN senchu osodijo adumuna minat luka titai MBs luka titai arai messages luka titai echika star idopet wongon dopet hash oseku use points osodi atupaki ntubitai teteri dumuni aina kinade kon naka senchu
everywhere you go. MTN.
Yes, Moses, our production team is giving us less than 3 minutes on this.
Charles,
for us to get out.
Charles and the listeners, the question of poverty is entirely a collective responsibility. Those in private sector and those in government.
Okay.
But the question comes in, whom do we hand over taxes? So I call upon the entire leadership of Teso. I don't want to base my argument on Kole, Lango, and where. How do we resolve? The leaders who are listening, government as a stake must address. And we can only do that by building factories here, by attracting investors to come here, do research here, do value addition. We can even have assembling plant here in Teso. We are neighboring Karamoja, Lango, Bugisu, and other regions. So Teso as a region, we have vast resources, we have brains, we have key players.
Okay.
The missing link is the capital for traders, for farmers, for teachers, and other professionals who can set up private hospitals for us to compete with other regions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Andrew, your last comment in less than a minute.
My last comment to all Bateso is engarake naye apupi engoetenge.
Okay, we shall sort out that. All right, thank you for being part of the show. For those ones who have been following us from the time we started at 9 o'clock, now that we have 2 minutes after 11 o'clock this morning, we had the privilege to have Andrew Mwenda. Andrew Mwenda is
the old man
CEO,
of the clan.
Yes, our old man in the clan and the CEO of the independent news magazine. He also plays a very pivotal role in analyzing politics and policies of this country, Uganda, and we can even say globally. My name is Charles. Till we meet then another time, same station. God bless.
Get ready.
If I need you now, I can let you go. One hit after another. Who's gonna rock you when the sun won't let you sleep?
Play my hits. Every time, why am I money? Hello, baby, have you sent it?
We don't stop the music.
Tell me what is the music?
Type in everything I want to hear.
So crazy right now.
The hottest sounds on 88.4 FM. Let's go. Let's go.
Fire boss, I drink black a bra, African boy. face some problem. Let them fear. Bukola. Let me see when you jibula. I'm with the man koluma. Tell me you run. Where are you? Yeah. Or you can call me anytime. So I look at you and young. Yeah. Yeah. Or you can call me anytime. So I look at you and young. Yeah. Gabanya ko benebitan to be benina nasimana chimona simama kabina walina banku wanika kalina chichita ya galanku but why go batula baba yomba but why go batula baba luada but why go batula baba songo bukalo batinula bagenda